Hello, this is Laura Robinson from the Chattanooga Area Food Bank, and I am going to give you a brief overview on insect and disease control and the things that I use here at the garden. So I'm going to walk through various things here. I use occasionally this tomato and vegetable spray from Captain Jack's, and I really have just used this recently to try to control flea beetles, and I'll go outside and show you what flea beetle damage looks like. I think the best control is actually to just put covers over the crops, a lightweight cover, and it keeps them out for the most part. But I just didn't do that very well this past season, and I had a lot of flea beetle problems. So I tried using this and it worked well on most of the crops. Then there's neem oil. It's used on all sorts of different things. You can look at the front. A lot of times you just kind of look up, like if you see something going on with, I don't know what I've used this for recently, but if you see a problem with a certain product and you look it up, kind of organic or natural ways to control it, a lot of times it'll come up with neem oil. There's insect soap. I use this mostly for aphid problems, and again, I'll show you what, hopefully I can find some aphids out in the garden. I'm sure I can, to show you what that looks like. This horticultural oil, I think what I used that for was bean beetle problems. I think it was something that it was suggested that you spray on green beans, maybe once a week to keep Mexican bean beetles under control. So not something that I use a ton of, but I think that's the reason that I have that. And then I use Slogo. This is also something that I use a lot. We have lots of, there's slugs, there's snails, there's also pill bugs in a lot of the beds, and I typically will put this down as I'm planting something new. A lot of times you'll look up pill bug damage online and they'll say that pill bugs aren't a problem, but they really have been here for me. So this is something that I have to use quite often. If anything, like all three of these things are in concentrates. So you'll see that I have a lot of spray bottles here, and that's for things that are in concentrates that you have to then like put in with water. So, I'll try to put on the spray bottles what you use. So like for horticultural oil, put 2 tablespoons in here for 68 ounces of water, for example. Other things like this one, that's already in a ready to use spray bottle. Okay, let me go outside real quick and I'll just show you what some insect damage looks like, so you know. Oh, and I don't think I showed you in there BT. BT is used for caterpillar damage, which is quite prevalent this time of year on greens. Okay, so let's see. I was gonna show you aphids, and I know that there were aphids on the kale, so I was just gonna see if I could find. You have to look on the undersides of the leaves, and if you, oh, here's a little bit, I think. They are just little tiny groupings, typically, of just, they're little tiny bugs. You will see the leaves start to kind of curl up on the edges where they've caused damage. So like right there, that's actually a better one. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Right there, and you can see the leaf is starting to curl up. Basically they're sucking they're sucking the like juices basically out of the leaf. So you'll see the leaves curl. You might also see some ants around. If you see ants traveling up and down a plant, that's a good indication that they're could be aphids around, so this is something that I would spray with insect soap. Okay, so there are lots of other things to look for, like holes in the leaves. Sometimes the holes are related to slugs and snails. Sometimes the holes are related to caterpillars. Sometimes the holes are related to grasshoppers. So you just have to kind of look at the leaf, look on the underside, see what you can find. See if I can find any. If I see smaller holes like this one, I would generally look for caterpillars. And caterpillars, like I said, can be controlled by the spray BT. It's probably a good idea just to kind of do a weekly spray on all cole crops of BT. It keeps the caterpillars at bay, but you can also go through and hand pick, which I've done that as well. But once you start seeing kind of leaf damage, you need to investigate it. So I don't see any caterpillars on here. I'll walk around, see if I can find any caterpillars, just to show you. Sometimes they are so tiny, so you really have to look hard. But when I see something like this, this looks more like snail or slug problems. And this is something, you know, you would put down those Sluggo granules. So if you see a good amount of this damage, I think this damage is old, because I have not noticed that on really many of the other leaves. So it really just takes like walking around and scouting the garden on a pretty frequent basis to kind of pick up on some of the issues that you might have. I did want to also show you flea beetle damage, which you can see here. Like, see these teeny tiny little holes? That's flea beetle damage, and it's really hard to control. Like I said, putting a cover over the bed is generally the best way to keep them out. I was not on top of it very much this fall, so I had a good amount of flea beetle damage, and I did do some spraying, which tended to help. Tokyo Bacana has really bad flea beetle damage. These greens did. Arugula had it pretty bad. It just tends to hit lots of different things. Let's see, over here, like this, if I saw that, I think there's a caterpillar in here. And we can look around and see. You will also see the black poop from a caterpillar. So like if you look down in here, and you would see poop somewhere if there was like a big caterpillar. And this might be one that I had found one and I already picked it off. But you do have to just kind of be on top of it and just go around and scout and see like what your problems are. Let me see if I can see any other damage. Oh, there's something else I wanted to show you. Sometimes I think that the damage, some of these big holes are grasshoppers. I could be wrong about that. I mean, look, you can see like the edges are chewed. That might also be snails. Maybe I probably should just put some snail bait in here just in case I'm wrong, but I have seen grasshoppers on these plants, it seems, on this type of kale more often. So sometimes it's hard to tell, and you just gotta like treat something with your best guess and see if it works. Let me see if there's anything else out here that I can show you. Let's see, I might be able to find caterpillars over here. I know I was seeing some last week, although I'm not seeing any now. A lot of times you'll see caterpillars crawling along the veining of the leaf, and sometimes you just have to flip them over and you'll see them on the backside too. The one other thing that I wanted to point out was we have a squirrel who really likes Swiss chard, and sometimes he'll eat some of the other greens. So this
This was actually from me yesterday. But if you find leaves that are chewed up and kind of left scattered around, that is typically the squirrel. He's impossible to keep out, and he hasn't done like significant damage, but he seems to be always present. So just something to keep in mind. And I think that's probably about all I can show you right now. Every season's going to be different. Summer disease and pest issues are definitely the worst. So again, like I said, you just really need to walk around the garden, scout pretty much every time you're here, and just look and see what kind of problems there are and how you can best treat it. Thanks. Bye-bye.